Okay. Hi there. So our purpose of this class, this virtual class, is to finish what we've started today. We spoke about Rabbi Dovid Zvi Hoffmann. We looked at his biography. We even saw one of his pieces on the Chumash, one of his commentaries, and we saw other things, a piece of his Wellhausen book, and we also saw one of his Tshuvot. But I want to see a couple of things, just we ran out of time. We're going to see one more commentary of his and a couple other things that I can only show you now that I have a screen, which I couldn't have shown you in person, which is a nice opportunity. So first of all, you were asking today what the response was to his book against Wellhausen by the non-Jewish or even the Jewish, or let's say the Reform critics, by the people who might have responded to it. So here is how his son-in-law, who's generally about as pro Hoffman as you can get, a little bit sometimes apocryphal, and here's how he puts it, not a glowing response. I only know, he says here, right here on the screen, I know of only one review of the book, this is talking about the Wellhausen book, by a Protestant Bible scholar, Professor B. Bonch. He wrote in 1908, 2 years after the publication of the second volume, but he knew only of the first. A perusal of the 8 columns of this review by the Protestant is instructive. The reviewer, it begins, read the preface and the preliminary remarks about the author's dogmatic point of view and his belief in the Mosaic authority of the Pentateuch, the Chumash, with a slight feeling of ghostly horror. Right? So he thought he's getting himself into some sort of overly religious, very pro-Orthodox point of view. He excuses himself for proceeding in spite of that, because he confesses he had derived a certain amount of new information from this commentary, and he thinks it would be quite useful if biblical scholarship would not pass the book by, but be reminded by it of various shortcomings of modern criticism and exegesis. Meaning it would be good if we had a response to the standard biblical approach to the documentary hypothesis. It would be good if we had a response to that by the religious authorities. But be reminded of it. He admits that the author, in his discussion of modern criticism, proceeds with acumen and skill, meaning talking about Hoffman now, and succeeds in invalidating some arguments and showing that some proposed textual emendations are untenable. Right? So maybe we've gone too far as biblical critics, Bible scholars. He praises various points of the work, especially the application of the traditional halacha to the interpretation of the laws, the conscientious weighing of all aspects when different interpretations of a passage are possible. The decision in such cases seems always well-founded, but he criticizes the efforts at harmonization of the text, which is really the whole point, as well as the symbolical interpretation of sacrifices. That's a big thing in biography. We didn't really talk about that. Of laws of purity and similar matters. This is actually the weakest part of the book. I think this is the son-in-law, Mark's, talking now. And here the author follows Samson Raphael Hirsch. Considering the gulf that divides the reviewer, the Protestant, from the author, Hoffman, the former's judgment is distinctly favorable, right? All things considered, considering that he had an uphill battle to try and convince anybody who already believed in biblical criticism of his more traditionalist-leaning views, Mark says that the Protestant says that he did fairly well, that Hoffman did fairly well. The second thing I want to show you has to do with the Midrashim. We mentioned that there are originally two schools of Midrashim. I might have said it backwards today. Shemot, let me get this right this time. So traditionally, we assume that Shemot has the Mechilta. I want to make sure I get this right. Vayikra has the Sifra. Bamidbar has the Sifri, and so does Devarim. So Vayikra. So the last two books, Bamidbar and Devarim, are the Sifri. So it's surprising, perhaps, when you see this. This is the Medrash Tanoim. This is a work by Hoffman, where he's trying to put together the original Midrashim that we had. I just said Sifri on Devarim, for example, with the newer ones that he's unearthed, both from the Cairo Geniza as well as from the other works that he's uncovered. He's found them hidden in in the Talmud and the Gemara. So at the very beginning here, he says, by the way, this is on Hebrew books. So you go to Hebrew books, you type in Midrash Tanaim in the title, and boom, it's right there. Midrash Tanaim, the second option here, is the one that we want. And then we go to page 8. So he says, Kol ma shenitpas ad parshat Shema. So everything that I'm going to print until Shema, that's the middle of Parshat Bet Chanan, Ba'otiot Ketanot, if it's in small letters, I'll show you an example of small letters. Right there, right? That's small letters. Anything in small letters, Kvar Nimsa B'Sifri, that you could find in any Sifri that you pull off your shelf. With some minor changes. But whatever you see in the bigger letters, Hu Chadash, that's new, meaning he's just uncovered it. And some of it seems to be Hu Ne'atak, that it's copied, Mimechilta L'Devarim. It's from the Mechilta on Devarim. Now, again, there is no Mechilta on Devarim, right? If you went to a bookstore, if you went to a Jewish bookstore and you said, can I have the Mechilta on Devarim? They would say, there's no such thing. And I meant to have this open already. I'll show you. Kind of funny. If you go to Wikipedia and you type Mechilta Devarim, let's see. There it is. Mechilta Devarim. And it says, it's a nice article about how they've tried to uncover Mechilta Devarim. Ha-Mechilta L'Devarim hu Midrash Tanaim Beit Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Yishmael, we usually assume wrote the other ones, not the Mechilta. Ha-Midrash Lo Hegiel Liadenu. I'm sorry, he wrote the Mechilta, but he didn't write the other ones. My apologies. Ha-Midrash Lo Hegiel Liadenu, but we don't have it. It doesn't exist. But we have some testimonies, L'Kiyumo, that it exists. B'Sifrot HaRishonim, the medieval Rishonim would write that it existed, but we don't have it. V'chein tzitzutim, u'muvaim, u'muvaot, mimenu mikrob shon, and we have certain pieces of it that have been uncovered from various places. So the Mechilta, which was written by Rabbi Yishmael, which we generally have only on the earlier on Shemot, does exist, and Rabbi Hoffmann would very much agree to that it does exist on Devarim, just not in the form that we usually have it. If you open up your regular Mechilta, you're not going to find it on Devarim. You're only going to find it unless you go to Hoffmann or somebody like this, and then you'll find it, at least parts of it, right? These are parts of it, and then he's got the traditional one over there. But he put it together. So what you have here is a combination of both Sifri, which is what you usually have on Devarim in terms of Medrash Halacha, mixed with Mechilta, right? So and that's why he just called it Midrash Tanaim, right? It's Midrash. It's from both Tanaim, both Rabbi Akiva's school and the school of Rabbi Yishmael. They're both here together in one book. It's a combination of both of these schools of Medrash Halacha, now copied as much as we can, as much as we have on Devarim. So that's something about that. Now, to go to our final piece of learning. Oh, and actually, we'll come back to that in a minute. So, back in our packet, you have it here on the screen. I'll make it a little bigger. Yeah. So we're going to learn one more Sifri together, one more Hoffmann together, one more commentary. See if I can make it a little bit bigger. That goes okay, a little better. Ki teisei. So let's look at some psukim. I'll read this time. Ki teisei la milchama lo ivecha. When you go out to war against your enemies, and Hashem gives you the enemies in your hands, and you capture a captive. You see among the captured, Eshat Ifat Toar, a beautiful woman, and you want her, and you take her for a woman. You take her to your house, and you cut off her hair. We're going to deal with this in a couple of minutes at Stiparna, and you do her nails. And I'm not going to explain that yet because that's going to be Hoffmann's job. Sira, but you do something to her nails. Right now, you might assume that's to cut them off, but not necessarily. Then you'll take off the clothing of her capture, of her captivity. From her, and she'll sit in your house. And she will cry for her parents. We'll assume right now that's what it means. Again, we'll see, maybe not. Yerach yamim for a month. And after that, then you can come to her, and be with her, have relations with her, and she will be for you a wife. Okay, that's the parsha. So this part I didn't translate just for space reasons, but here's what he says: Ki teitze, when you come to war. Halashon ki, the word ki, when you come to war. More it means, it shows that we're talking about an optional war. When you come to war, you don't have to come to war. It's the type of war that you could fight or you could not fight. Kamosha shaninu be sifri, right? He's always quoting Medrash Halacha, as it says in the Sifri. Parsha Zot, this parsha, this short parsha, meaning this section, the story, Medyacheset l'mash ne'emar l'mal zachav yudalid. It connects to what we said earlier in Perek Chaf Pasuk Yudalid, Shahorishenu, that we have permission l'shbod et hanashim, to settle the women v'ataf and the children b'amil chama, that you have permission during war to settle the women and the children. V'kan ba katuv l'lamedcha, and here but here in our section, the pasuk is coming to teach us ketzad ata oseh, how you do that. V'ata, and the fact that, and again, so I'll come back to v'ata rashai l'kayeh mehen yishud, and also the fact that you are allowed to become married to one of them. So again, you see the interconnectedness between the different stories, because it's not just a bunch of random stories. Earlier we had the idea that you're allowed to settle them, and here we have how you're allowed to settle them. But here he shows his hand a little bit. Kamosha amru b'mechilta, as it says in the Mechilta. Now, how can there be a Mechilta? There is no Mechilta on Devarim. There's only Sifri. So he's quoting his own Midrash Tanaim, page 127. Okay, not a problem. Let's try that. A little bit after that, because of the table of contents and everything, I think it's 132, I believe. And sure enough, let's see, 125, 126, page 127, in his Midrash Tanaim, which is both the standard Sifri as well as the Mechilta, Parshat Ki Teitze, our parak, our pasuk Ki Teitze LaMilchama. Again, the small type is what was standard already there, what's from the Sifri meaning. But Milchemet HaRashut, that it's an optional war, he mentioned that. And then he quotes his innovative Mechilta that he's found on Devarim, which, as you now know, V'lama Namar, why is this all being said? Lefishahu Omer, because it says earlier, Chaf Yadal, Rak HaNashim V'ataf V'abeim HaTachos L'cha. All it said earlier in Perek Chaf, right now we're in Chaf Aleph, all it said earlier is that you're allowed to otavoz, that you're allowed to take them as spoils. Aval lo shamanu, but we didn't know earlier in Perek Chaf she'at rashai l'kayim man ishut, that you're allowed to marry the women. Talmud lomar, that's why it says ki teitze lamilchama, when you come to a war. V'reita b'ashivya ba'katu lamencha ketzad atos. So it's telling you here in the new Perek Chaf Aleph as opposed to Chaf, it's telling you how to go about doing that, v'et rashai l'kayim, and how you're allowed to go about becoming married to one of these women. So the connection between the two prakim, which really was not stated by the standard Sifri, which we have in small type, is being spelled out very clearly by the Mechilta, which Rabbi Hoffmann has uncovered for us and put in big type. So that Perek Chaf was explaining that you can set aside the women and the children, but Perek Chaf Aleph, the story that we've been looking at, is telling you how you can go about making her a wife. So there is an interconnectedness between these two stories. It's not random. Okay. Now let's go to this idea of her nails. So in order to do this, he's going to quote these opinions of the Gemara, so we will do that as well. Meaning, let's look at it first. Well, let's look at these. So there's two topics. This is the same page of Gemara, Yevamot, page Memchet, Amud Aleph. So first, as far as fingernails. We mentioned the fingernails, we mentioned the father and mother, mourning for the parents. Tana Rabbanan, it's the Gemara. V'gilchat rosha, you'll cut off her hair. V'asta et tzipar neha, and you'll do her nails. What does it mean to do her nails? Rabbi Eliezer omer takotz. Rabbi Eliezer says you should cut them off, as we might think. Rabbi Akiva omer tagdil. No, he says actually what it means is you should let them grow. That might be less obvious. So let's explore. Amar Rabbi Eliezer, who said cut them off. Namra asiya berosh. It already said that not here. It didn't say here that you do her hair, but it said you cut off her hair. And it also says that by fingernails. Malahalan havara. So when it came to her hair, obviously you're cutting it off because it says v'gilcha. You'll cut off her hair. So the same thing is true about her fingernails. Malahalan havara. Just like over there, you cut her hair off. Havkan. So over here by the fingernails, havara, you cut it off as well. Okay. Fine, that's not as difficult to understand. What about Rabbi Akiva? He says to let the hair grow. Nemar asiya berosh, similar. It says to do something by the hair. We'll get back to this in a minute. The Nemar asiya b'tzipar, and it also says to do your nails again. Malahala nival. So when it says, we'll prove this in a minute. When it says to do her hair, it's clearly saying to disgrace her. We should disgrace this lady. So Afkan. So notice that they're really very much opposite. According to Rabbi Eliezer, that you're cutting off her fingernails. That is almost respecting her more. We'll see that's a sign of mourning. According to Rabbi Akiva, you're trying to disgrace her even more. You're trying to almost add to her disgrace. So what was Rabbi Eliezer talking about? The Divrei Rabbi Eliezer, the proof for Rabbi Eliezer is from Shmuel Bet, Perek Yutet, Pasuk Kafei, and the pasuk is Umipi Boshet ben Shaul, Yered Likrat HaMelech. Mipi Boshet went down to greet the king. Lo Asa Raglav, he didn't do his legs. Lo Asa Sfamo, and he didn't do his mustache. Safam. Ma'asiyah. So what does it mean to do something in this context? Havar, clearly it means to cut them off, to shave, to get rid of something, just like he's getting rid of his mustache. So that's Rabbi Eliezer. So we have a debate here, a machloket. Rabbi Eliezer says that she should cut off her fingernails. Rabbi Akiva says that she should let them grow. And the underlying argument here is that Rabbi Akiva is arguing that she should become more disgraced in order that he not want to marry her. That's not just for her disgrace, but in order to prevent. Hoffman's going to say this. We'll see this in a minute in Hoffmann. It's not from the Gemara. The disgrace isn't just against her. It's really to try and prevent the person who captured her from marrying her. Rabbi Eliezer says this whole thing is about avelus. The whole thing is to emphasize or to allow her to have a time of avelus. That's why he's cutting off her nails. Okay. Now to the issue of the parents, which seems easier. Parents are parents, but not necessarily. Tana Rabbanan, our rabbis say, we have our pasuk uvachta, she'll cry for her parents. Rabbi Eliezer Omer aviha mamish, and ima mamash. It means her parents, right? As you might expect, that she's mourning for her parents. Rabbi Akiva here is not intuitive. Aviha ve'ima zo avodat kochavim. That she's mourning her avodah zarah. She wishes she could still worship idols. Right? That doesn't sound intuitive. We're going to see Hoffmann on this. Doesn't sound intuitive, but her parents are her avodah zarah. She's sad that she can no longer do avodah zarah. She's with this Jewish guy, and he's got no avodah zarah. So she's sad that she misses her avodah zarah. And he proves it from a pasuk in Yirmiyahu, where it says, Omrim la'etz, that you say to a tree, people who worship idols call a tree, Avi ata, you are my father. So people who worship idols refer to them as their parent, their father. So that's, again, here, she would be mourning not really her parents, who anyway aren't dead, so I guess why would she mourn them? She's mourning her loss of being able to do avodah zarah. So that's the Gemara. So again, fingernails, Rabbi Eliezer says to cut them. Rabbi Akiva says to grow them. Rabbi Akiva is trying to make her more disgusting. Rabbi Eliezer is saying that she has the chance to do avelut, to be a mourner. The parents, Rabbi Eliezer takes the obvious approach. Her parents are her parents. Rabbi Akiva says when it says she mourns her parents, it means she's sad that she can no longer do avodah zarah. Okay, now let's see Rav Hoffmann on this. V'asta tziparneha. We'll go to the English. Onkelos translates, and she will increase her fingernails, right? Following Rabbi Akiva, right? She'll let them grow, and so does Rashi. She will grow them. Tzikat lame, right? She'll grow her fingernails. And that is the opinion of Rabbi Akiva in the Sifri, which is brought in Yevamot, right? Again, he prefers Sifri. That's the real source, brought in Yevamot, which we saw, right? The opinion of Rabbi Akiva that she will grow them. Rabbi Akiva Omer Tagdil. Okay, but he brings both opinions. Compared to Yeshayahu, fine. The intention of the pasuk, he's assuming right now that you are letting her grow her fingernails. The intention of the pasuk is to make her unattractive in order that he will not marry her. We mentioned this, right? So if she has long fingernails, he's going to look at her and be grossed out, be disgusted. He's not going to want to marry her. Rabbi Akiva brings a proof for his words from the words of the pasuk, and she will cut off her hair, which is also a way to make her appear unattractive, right? So ironically, cutting off her hair makes her unattractive, and growing her fingernails makes her unattractive, right? So whatever she can do to become unattractive in order to prevent him from marrying her. By the way, we saw the later Sifri on this, the later Hoffman on this today, which is that we saw that the pasuk really doesn't want, according to Hoffman, doesn't want this to happen. It can't forbid it, or it doesn't forbid it, but it really thinks it's a bad idea. You see that here too. It's trying to discourage the man from marrying her. Okay, however, Rabbi Eliezer brings a proof from the pasuk in Shmuel Bet, which we saw, that the word do means to cut off. This is Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer, right, says to cut off, to quotes. She will cut them off. So Rabbi Eliezer brings a proof from the pasuk that the word means that she should cut off her fingernails. This is also what Philo says. I do not think you will ever see the Netziv quote Philo. I don't think Hirsch ever quotes Philo. Hoffman has no problem with that at all. He quotes Philo as saying the same thing. Philo was a Greek philosopher who also wrote basically a commentary on Chumash. He wrote for the Greeks an interpretation of the Chumash. So the Ramban explains that this is the simple meaning of the pasuk, meaning to cut off. She cuts off her nails. That's basically what it means. So he's disagreeing with Rashi, which happens. Because this is the simple meaning of the pasuk, because all of the things that are mentioned are aspects of mourning. Meaning, according to Ramban, basically, these psukim are trying to give her an opportunity to mourn. And if she cuts off her fingernails, that is not necessarily, this is confusing. It's not that cutting off her fingernails is a sign of mourning, but in other words, it's not going to make her unattractive. Meaning, we're looking at it from, it's all relative, right? If we let her cut them, that would definitely, if we let her grow if we made her grow the fingernails, that would be obviously a sign of making her unattractive. Cutting them isn't a sign of being unattractive, so it takes on some other meaning, which in this case is mourning. It's not that it's necessarily about mourning. It's not that everyone who mourns has to cut their fingernails. It's not a standard part of Avelut, but it's not about making her disgusting anymore, because cutting them doesn't make her disgusting, so we'll assume it's for mourning. That's how I read this anyway. Anyway, the Ramban explains all this simple meaning because all the things are mentioned are aspects of mourning. And then the end of the pasuk would flow smoothly when it says, and she will cry, right? People who are mourning cry. Therefore, also it takes place for a month. Notice the month in the psukim. People mourn often for a month because mourning generally takes place for a month. And this is also what Yosef ben Mattatyahu says in the Antiquities of the Jews, Kadmoniot. Now this, I love this because this really takes our whole series this summer full circle. Kadmoniot, the Antiquities of the Jews, was one of the books that the Netziv would confiscate in his yeshiva, at least in the 1850s and 60s, maybe not later on when he kind of gave up, but earlier on he would confiscate this very book and throw the yeshiva student out of yeshiva who had it. And now, four subjects later, a month later, we have Hoffmann quoting it here, citing it in his commentary on Chumash. Right? Obviously, very different takes on these kinds of issues. However, all of these actions are only commanded because she had been converted by force. And therefore, she should be given the opportunity to mourn and to collect her thoughts. Right? The fact that, so again, you see a little bit of apologetics maybe, that because the man has taken the woman by force, he feels bad, he gives her the opportunity to mourn. The Chumash is giving us some rules on compassion, which may not be evident right there if you read it on your own in Chumash, in order that she becomes complete with her new situation. But if she accepts upon herself to convert of her own free will, it says in the Bright and Yivamu, she's permitted to be taken as a wife immediately, right? Which I guess is a proof of some extent for the apologetics. The Gemara apparently says that she doesn't have to go through this whole process with the nails and the hair and the crying if she is converting on her own. Now, about the parents, her father. Right, she cries for her father. Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Eliezer argue about this in the Sifri. We know this, also in the Gemara. But right, we said that Rabbi Eliezer says that her parents are really her parents. Rabbi Akiva says that her parents are idols. She's sad that she can't worship idols. Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Eliezer argue about this in the Sifri. According to Rabbi Akiva, the meaning here is idol worship. We know that, meaning that she should leave the gods of the other nations. Rabbi Eliezer explains the pasuk in a literal way. It is possible that the two of them are going according to their explanations that they made regarding her nails. Now, that took me a minute to figure out. I guess if you want to try and figure that out on your own, you could pause the video, see if you can put these two things together, how the opinion on the fingernails has to do with the opinions on the parents, or non-parents, of Avodah Zarah, idol worship. But here is how I would understand it. Let's start with Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer says you cut off her fingernails. And he says, why would you cut off? Well, actually, let's start with Rabbi Akiva. We'll go backwards. Rabbi Akiva says you grow her fingernails. Why would you grow her fingernails? Because it's a sign of nivelut. You're trying to make her appear disgusting so that he won't marry her. So now, if you say that, then there's no one to mourn, right? If you take her, so then if it's not about avelut when it comes to the fingernails, because it's about nivelut, about making her disgusting, then when you go to her parents, she's not really going to mourn her parents because she's not mourning anybody. We weren't trying to make her a mourner. We weren't giving her an opportunity to mourn. We were trying to make her disgusting. So then when it comes to here, we can explain that her parents are her parents. But when it comes to Rabbi Akiva, I might have said it backwards. I'll say it again in a minute if I said it backwards. When it comes to Rabbi Eliezer, who assumes over here that we're trying to make her mourn, we're trying to make her into a mourner, allow her to mourn. So then over here we say that it means her parents because she's mourning, right? Who would she mourn for? none other than her parents. Right? So let me say that again. When it comes to her fingernails, we cut them off because we're not trying to make her disgusting. We're trying to allow her to be a mourner. So when it comes to who she would mourn, we give her, Rabbi Eliezer has the easy job here of saying that she is simply mourning her parents. But when it comes to Rabbi Akiva, who said that we're trying to make her disgusting, but we're not giving her an opportunity to mourn. So then if we go back to who she would mourn, well, who's she going to mourn? She has nobody to mourn. We said it's not about mourning. It's about making her disgusting. So we have to take the less obvious, less literal approach of saying that it is about idol worship, right? The non-intuitive approach. It's not intuitive to say that she would mourn for her avodah zarah, but what choice does Rabbi Akiva have? He wasn't letting her mourn when we were talking about her fingernails. He was making her disgusting, but he wasn't making her a mourner. So then when it comes to who she mourns, he's kind of on the hot seat. He's kind of stuck. So he says, oh, it must be she's mourning her idol worship. He's mourning her avodah zarah. Whereas Rabbi Eliezer has an easier time over here because he said that she was, he said that she cuts off her fingernails as a sign of mourning, meaning we're not trying to make her disgusting necessarily. So it must be avelut, which means when you get over here, the only people to do avelut for would be her parents. Literal avelut would be her parents, and it works better for him. So Rabbi Eliezer works better over here when it comes to the parents. Rabbi Akiva works better over here to say that we're trying to make her disgusting, right? So over here, Rabbi Eliezer has the harder job, meaning he's really responding, even though it's the other way around over here, but he's really responding to Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva has the more obvious approach about the fingernails because she's growing them to make her unattractive to the man, so he won't want to marry her. Rabbi Eliezer says no. It's about cutting them, which has nothing to do with mourning, but it's the opposite of the velut, which we're only left to say it's mourning, which gives him an easier job over here of saying that he is to say that she's mourning for her parents. Whereas Rabbi Akiva has the easier job over here to say that she's becoming unattractive so that he won't marry her. But over here, if she's not mourning, then what would she be mourning for? And he's left with avodah zarah. Okay, those are the final pieces that I wanted to show you about Hoffmann. One final point about how to find any of these, whether it's Hirsch, Hoffmann, Netziv, or the Malbim. Two things you can do. One is to go to a very nice website called alhatorah.org. And these are both, I'm going to give you two resources for finding all of their commentaries for free. Really tremendous. Mikraot Gedolot, I click on that. And I click on Bachar text. I'm going to select text. And I'm going to say, I don't know, maybe Devarim. I'm going to choose by Parsha. And I'm going to say Kitetse. That's what we were just in. And it's an amazing website because I already have Hoffmann queued up here. But if I go on to the tool, the tool over there, I have dozens of commentaries. And I can click, right, I want to see these. I'm just picking at random now. Malbim, we have over here Malbim, Netziv, Hoffmann, and where is our fourth one? Netziv, Hoffmann, Malbim, and Hirsch. Hirsch is over here. And then I say Yishur means to select them, and there they are, right? Here, let's take away some of these other ones. Gur Aryeh, right? And I can have as many comments, like a make your own Mikrot Gedolot, as many as I want on each pasuk. There they are. Hirsch, Malbim, Netziv, new pasuk, Hirsch, Malbim, Netziv. Then I go down, Hoffmann, new pasuk, and then there, right? It's pasuk by pasuk. Tremendous. Beautiful website. The other website that's very nice that some people may know about is called Safari. It's called Safaria. And Safaria is a little more well known, I suppose, than the other one. I click over there, Let's get out of this. I'm going to go to Tanakh. I'm going to go to Devarim. And on any pasuk, I can click on the pasuk, and it says commentary. There's 24 on this pasuk alone. 24 different commentaries. Rashi, of course, even Ezra. There's no Ramban on this pasuk. Sforno is there. Some I've never really even heard of. Or Aderet Eliyahu is the Gra, the Vilna Gaon. Bechor Shor, Chizkuni, Ketav HaKabbalah, another 19th century commentary we didn't get to this summer. Now we have. Chaim Akdaver, that's the Netziv. Right, we know the Netziv. Malbim, we know him. And I think we usually have Hirsch, maybe he's not here. I don't think they have Hoffmann on this website on Sefaria, although they might someday. Oh, and one final point. You know what? For this, I'm going to go Hoffmann. Really very nice. If we go to Hoffmann Bereshit, this is a website called Da'at, DAAT.ac.il, so dot. And I've queued it up right to here. And I love this because it's PDFs of the original printing of Hoffmann, but they've organized it. Remember, he said today in class that he's very organized. So they've actually followed his system of organization, right? So he divides the Parsha into these categories, and then you can click on that and read his commentary, right? So it's broken up in the not necessarily intuitive way that he breaks it up, but that's how he broke it up. So they do it, in honor of that, so to speak, in deference to Hoffmann. They follow his system of organization. And on each one, if I just click on one at random, I don't even know what this is, but we always see, as we saw today, he begins with a introduction to the section and how it is, how it connects to the previous one. There it is, Samuch la'achar ha'ma'ora hanisi shabigrar. So it connects from the amazing, the miraculous events in Grar. Pokein Hashem et Sarah. Then Hashem remembers Sarah. So it's going to connect the two stories, as we know Hoffmann does so often. And then it goes into the psukim, and then it has his commentary. All right, so that's typical Hoffmann that we've seen both today and this evening. So that's very, very nice. And in some ways, this is better than Al HaTorah because you really get to see it in the way that he laid it out. When I made the sheets for you, I tried to do that, to lay it out the same way with the psukim, the organizational structure, the introductions. So that's really how he worked as well. Very organized. And that is all I have to say about Hoffmann. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your participation and attendance this summer. I loved learning with you, and I look forward to learning with you again next summer. Have a wonderful day.